Hello, and welcome. If you're watching this, chances are you're looking for a little help winding down. Maybe it's been a long day. Maybe your mind is still moving a little faster than you'd like it to. Maybe you just need somewhere quiet to rest your attention while sleep finds its way to you. Whatever brought you here, you're very welcome. Tonight, we're going to spend some time together learning about the history of the filing cabinet, where it came from, how it was invented, how it changed the way people worked and thought and organized their lives. It's a gentle subject, full of quiet details and small moments of history, and we're going to move through it slowly and without any rush at all. That's the whole video. Just that. Nothing else. And here's something important to know before we begin. You do not have to stay awake for this. That's not what this is for. If you find yourself drifting partway through the first segment, that's exactly right. If you can't remember where the story was when you wake up in the morning, that's a success, not a failure. This video is not a lecture. There's no test. There is nothing here you need to remember or hold on to. You are allowed to fall asleep. You are encouraged to fall asleep. That is precisely what this is for. And if sleep takes a little while to come, if you find yourself still listening 10 minutes in, or 30, or an hour, that's completely fine too. The story will be here. It will keep moving at the same quiet pace, and your only job is to let it wash over you. Nothing dramatic is going to happen here. There will be no sudden loud moments, no shocking revelations, no sharp changes in tone or pace. The music, if there is any, will stay soft. The voice will stay calm. The subject matter, the history of a filing cabinet, is about as gentle and unexciting as a subject can be, and that is entirely intentional. This is a predictable place, a safe place. You know exactly what is coming. More quiet facts, more calm narration, more of the same steady and unhurried voice carrying you through a story that is interesting enough to hold your attention loosely, but never demanding enough to keep you awake. So make yourself comfortable. Adjust your pillow. Let your blanket settle around you. Close your eyes if you'd like to, or let your gaze go soft and unfocused. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be. The day is finished, and everything that needed doing is as done as it's going to be tonight. You are safe, you are warm, and we are about to begin a very long, very calm conversation about the humble filing cabinet. Whenever you're ready, and even if you're not quite ready yet, let's begin. The humble filing cabinet, its history, its purpose, the slow, patient story of how it came to exist. It might seem like an unlikely thing to think about before sleep, but there is something genuinely soothing about the everyday objects that surround us, things we've seen 100 times without ever really looking at them. The filing cabinet has a longer, richer history than most people would ever imagine. And tonight, we're going to explore it, gently and without any hurry at all. So let your eyes close. If they haven't already, take a slow breath in, and let's begin at the very beginning. Long before there was ever such a thing as a filing cabinet, long before metal drawers, or hanging folders, or neatly labeled tabs, people still needed to keep records. And the need to organize written information is one of the oldest human challenges there is. Thousands of years ago, people kept records on clay tablets. They pressed marks into soft clay with a pointed tool, let the tablet harden, and stored it alongside others. In ancient Egypt and across the Mediterranean world, papyrus scrolls served the same purpose, long sheets of plant material that could be rolled up, tied, and stacked in jars or on shelves. And for centuries after that, wooden chests and iron-bound boxes held the important papers of merchants, governments, and landowners. People have been trying to organize written records for a very, very long time. The methods changed, but the need never did. Let that thought rest for a moment. The desire to bring order to information, to be able to find what you're looking for when you need it, is something deeply, quietly human. As time passed and written records became more common, offices began to develop their own ways of managing paper. In early workplaces, documents were often kept in large bound ledger books, heavy volumes where information was recorded and stored together. All papers were gathered into bundles and tied with string, kept in neat-looking stacks that were, in practice, anything but convenient. The trouble with this system is easy to imagine. If you needed one particular document, a single letter, a single invoice, a single receipt, you couldn't simply reach for it. You had to find the right bundle, untie it, unfold each sheet in turn, and go through them one by one until you found what you were looking for. And then, of course, you had to fold it all back up and tie it together again. It was slow. It was careful work. And in a busy office, where time mattered and papers were constantly in motion, it became harder and harder to manage. Take a slow breath. Imagine a quiet office, many years ago. The scratch of a pen, the soft rustle of paper, someone methodically untying a bundle of documents, searching patiently through each one. Beyond ledger books and bundles, there was another common method of storing paper that was even less tidy. The simple pile. Paper stacked on desks, on shelves, in baskets. Bags hung from hooks, stuffed with envelopes and receipts, and mounted on walls, small compartments called pigeonholes, little rectangular cubbies, side by side, each one holding a collection of folded papers and envelopes. Pigeonholes were named after the small nesting boxes built for pigeons, and their resemblance was clear enough. Row upon row of identical little spaces, each one filled with something tucked inside. Retrieving a document from a pigeonhole meant reaching in, pulling out the contents, unfolding the paper to find what you needed, and folding it back up again when you were done. It was the best system available, and for a long time, it worked after a fashion. But the world was changing. Businesses were growing. Trade was expanding. Cities were filling up with offices, with clerks, with papers. More and more transactions needed to be recorded. More and more records needed to be kept. And the old systems, the piles, the bundles, the pigeonholes, were beginning to buckle under the weight of it all. Rest with that image for a moment. A world drowning, very slowly and quietly, in its own paperwork. By the late Middle Ages, one practical solution had already emerged in workplaces across Europe. It was called a spindle file, and it was exactly what it sounds like. A vertical metal rod, sharpened at the top, mounted on a heavy base, onto which papers were simply pushed down and impaled. A spindle file required almost no thought. You dealt with a piece of paper, and then you pushed it onto the spike. It stayed there, in order, along with every other paper that had come before it. And when you needed to look back through recent documents, you could simply lift the stack and leaf through them. It was not elegant. It was not sophisticated, but it was orderly, in its own way. Papers stayed where they were put. They didn't blow away, or get shuffled out of sequence, or end up at the bottom of the wrong pile. The spindle file was a small but genuine step toward something better, toward the idea that paper could be held in place, that order could be maintained, that finding things again was a problem worth solving properly. Let that settle for a moment. Even the simplest solution, a metal rod, a heavy base, a stack of paper, represents someone thinking carefully about a problem and deciding to do something about it. The next step came in the 1800s, and it came in the form of the flat file cabinet. These were large, wide, shallow drawers, stacked one on top of another in a heavy wooden or metal frame. Documents were placed inside them lying flat, horizontal, the way they naturally sat on a desk. Each drawer might hold one category of papers, or 1 month's worth of correspondence, or the records of one particular client. Flat files were an improvement in many ways. Papers were protected from dust and handling. They stayed flat and uncreased. And because each drawer could be labeled, finding a general category of documents became much easier, even if finding one specific page still required some searching. Flat file cabinets became common in offices, in architect studios, in newspaper printing rooms, anywhere that large quantities of paper needed to be stored and kept in reasonable order. They were solid, dependable pieces of furniture, heavy and serious, built to last. Imagine the quiet slide of one of those wide, shallow drawers, the faint smell of old paper, The way a stack of documents lies perfectly flat inside, waiting patiently. In 1886, a man named Henry Brown took out a patent on something a little different. A container for storing important documents that was both lockable and resistant to fire. His invention was a sealed, secure box, a place where papers of particular value could be protected not only from theft or prying eyes, but from the very real danger of fire. And fire was a serious concern. In the 19th century, offices and warehouses burned regularly. Record-keeping depended entirely on paper, and paper, of course, burns. The loss of important documents in a fire could be catastrophic. Contracts gone, accounts gone, correspondence gone, with no way to recover them. Brown's patent was not quite what we would recognize as a filing cabinet today, but it represented something important. The idea that documents deserved to be actively protected, that records were valuable enough to be kept safe, not just kept organized. Let that thought sit quietly for a moment. Someone, in 1886, looking at a box full of papers and thinking, these matter, these are worth protecting. And by the 1880s, the idea of dedicated furniture for storing paper had caught on widely enough that newspapers were already running advertisements for filing cabinets. Think about what that means for a moment. For something to appear in a newspaper advertisement, there has to be a market for it. There have to be enough people who want it, or who might want it once they see it described, that a manufacturer thinks it worth the cost of the advertisement. By the 1880s, that market existed. Businesses were large enough, and busy enough, and paper-heavy enough, that purpose-built storage furniture had become something people were actively looking for. The filing cabinet had not yet arrived in its modern form. That would come a little later. But the demand for it, the felt need, the growing frustration with the old ways of doing things, was already there, already being expressed, already shaping what was about to be invented. The world was ready for something new. It just didn't know quite what it was yet. So here we are, at the very beginning of the story. Thousands of years of human record-keeping, clay tablets and papyrus scrolls, spindles and pigeonholes, flat files and fire-resistant boxes, all of it slowly converging toward a single, simple, elegant solution that most of us have barely thought about since we last opened one. There's something peaceful about the long arc of this story. The quiet, patient way that human beings noticed a problem and kept working on it, across generations, across centuries. Not dramatically, not all at once, but steadily, carefully, one small improvement at a time. Let your breathing slow. Let your body feel heavy and comfortable. The story is just beginning, and there is no hurry at all. We'll continue in the next segment. For now, simply rest. Welcome back. Or perhaps you're still here from the beginning, drifting along quietly. Either way, there's nothing to do but settle a little deeper and let the words wash over you. When we left off, we were standing at the edge of something, the world of the 1880s, full of growing offices and accumulating paper, full of spindle files and flat drawers and pigeonholes that were slowly, quietly failing to keep up. The demand for something better had already announced itself in newspaper advertisements. The patents were beginning to appear, and somewhere in all of that, in the slow, steady pressure of a world that needed a better way, the real breakthrough was getting ready to arrive. Take a slow breath, let your shoulders drop, and let's continue the story. The breakthrough, when it came, was deceptively simple. Instead of laying papers flat, instead of stacking them horizontally in wide, shallow drawers where finding a single document meant lifting and sorting through everything above it, what if you stood them upright? Vertical filing. Documents stored on their edges, like books on a shelf, each one in its own folder, each folder behind the one before it. To find what you needed, you didn't have to remove anything. You simply reached in, ran your fingers along the top edges of the folders, found the right label, and drew it out. It sounds obvious now. It sounds so simple that it's almost hard to believe no one had settled on it before. But that is often the way with the best ideas. They seem inevitable only after they've arrived. Before that, They are just a possibility that nobody has quite reached yet. Let that sit for a moment. The idea of standing a piece of paper upright. Something so ordinary, so small, and yet, in the context of its time, genuinely revolutionary. The moment that brought vertical filing to wide public attention came in 1893, at one of the most spectacular events of the entire century, the World's Fair in Chicago. The 1893 World's Columbian Exposition, as it was formerly known, was an extraordinary gathering, held to celebrate the 400th anniversary of Christopher Columbus's arrival in the Americas. It drew visitors from across the country and around the world. There were grand exhibition halls, electric lights, the first ever Ferris wheel, and hundreds upon hundreds of displays showcasing the latest in technology, industry, and design. Among all of that spectacle, in one of the exhibition halls, someone demonstrated vertical filing, a new way of thinking about documents, a new way of organizing the paper that modern offices were drowning in. Imagine the setting for a moment. The hum and noise of a great exhibition. People in long coats and high collars, moving between displays. And there, quietly, someone showing visitors how a piece of paper could stand upright in a folder, how it could be found again in seconds, how an entire office's worth of records could be brought under calm and orderly control. It was not the most dramatic display at the World's Fair, but it may have been one of the most quietly consequential. 5 years later, in 1898, a man named Edwin G. Sybils made a contribution that would prove enormously important to the practical story of the filing cabinet. Sybils worked in insurance in Columbia, South Carolina, and like anyone managing large quantities of documents at the time, he was deeply familiar with the inefficiencies of the existing system. Papers folded and refolded, documents that creased and tore along their fold lines with repeated handling, files that had to be unfolded entirely just to be read, and then carefully folded back up to be returned to storage. His insight was to store papers flat and fully unfolded inside their folders. Unfolded, lying as they naturally lay when you put them down on a desk, taking up their full size, never creased. This meant they were easier to read, easier to handle, and far less likely to be damaged over time. A document that was never folded was a document that would last. It seems like a small thing, but in a world where important records were expected to be kept for years, sometimes decades, the difference between a paper that had been folded and refolded 100 times and one that had never been folded at all was significant. Sybils was thinking not just about the moment of retrieval, but about the long life of the document itself. Let that thought settle gently. The care taken for something as simple as a piece of paper. The quiet thoughtfulness of someone who wanted records not just to be findable, but to last. Around the same period, the shape of the filing cabinet was being refined and formalized through a series of patents, each one adding something to the emerging design. In 1895, a man named W.A. Cook Jr. filed a patent that contributed to the structure of vertical filing systems, working out the mechanics of how folders and drawers could work together smoothly and reliably. And in 1902, David E. Hunter's patent helped push the design further still, addressing the practical details of how a cabinet could hold documents upright without them slipping, sagging, or losing their order. Patents like these are easy to overlook in the broader sweep of history. They don't have the drama of a single great invention. They're incremental, small technical improvements, careful refinements, problems noticed and solved one at a time. But that is exactly how most useful things are actually made. Not in a single flash of inspiration, but in a long, patient sequence of small steps, each one building on the one before it. The filing cabinet was taking shape, not in one person's workshop, not on one particular afternoon, but slowly and collaboratively, across years and across the work of many different people. Rest with that for a moment. The quiet, collective nature of invention, the way useful things emerge from many hands, many minds, many small ideas adding up to something greater than any of them alone. By around 1900, the vertical filing cabinet had moved from demonstration and patent into something new, the commercial market. Companies began manufacturing and selling them, and among the earliest and most significant was the Library Bureau. The Library Bureau had been founded some years earlier by Melville Dewey, the same Melville Dewey who created the Dewey Decimal System, the method of organizing library books that is still in use today. Dewey was a man deeply interested in systems, in order, in the idea that information could be arranged so that it was always findable. The Library Bureau sold office supplies and organizational products, and when vertical filing cabinets became commercially viable, it was among the first companies to bring them to the market. Imagine walking into an office supply showroom around the year 1900 and seeing one of those early cabinets for the first time. Tall and solid, drawers that slid open smoothly. Inside, rows of folders standing upright, each one labeled, each one waiting quietly for the right hand to reach in and find it. There was something almost beautiful about it. In its way, the promise of order, the promise that everything had its place, and that what was put away could always be found again. It's worth pausing here to note something about the filing cabinet's origins that sets it apart from many famous inventions. There was no single inventor, no one person who woke up one morning with the complete idea fully formed. No single patent that captures the whole thing. The filing cabinet, as we know it, was the result of many people in different cities, working for different companies, solving different pieces of the same large problem, gradually converging on the same solution. Some of them knew about each other's work, some of them may not have, but together, across the span of roughly 2 decades, they assembled something that none of them could have built alone. There is something quietly reassuring about that. The reminder that the most useful things in the world are rarely the work of a single genius. They are, more often, the patient accumulation of many people's careful thinking. Let your breathing slow. Let that thought drift through you gently. Many hands, many small ideas. One useful thing. The earliest commercial filing cabinets were made of wood. Oak, most commonly a timber known for its strength and solidity, its fine grain, its sense of permanence. An oak filing cabinet in an office at the turn of the 20th century would have looked very much at home alongside the oak desks and oak bookshelves that furnished those rooms. It would have felt weighty and serious, something built to last. Some of those early wooden cabinets were also insulated, lined, or constructed in ways intended to offer some protection against fire. The memory of Henry Brown's fire-resistant document box from 1886 was still present in the thinking of manufacturers who understood that paper records were vulnerable, and that fire was a genuine and constant risk. But wood, however fine, had its limitations. It was heavy. It was expensive. It was variable. No two pieces of wood were quite the same, which made it difficult to produce cabinets in large quantities to consistent dimensions. And it was, ultimately, still flammable. Something better was coming. Steel changed everything. As manufacturing processes improved and steel became more affordable in the early 20th century, cabinet makers began switching from wood to metal, and the advantages were considerable. Steel was stronger. It was more fire-resistant. It was uniform. Every sheet of steel rolled to the same thickness, every cabinet built to exactly the same dimensions. Steel could be cut and bent and welded with precision, in ways that wood simply couldn't match. A steel filing cabinet could be produced in large numbers, reliably and consistently. Every drawer would fit. Every cabinet in a range would be interchangeable. And because steel was non-combustible, a steel cabinet offered far better protection for the documents inside it than any wooden one could. The shift from wood to steel was not sudden. For a time, both materials were used, and offices contained a mixture of the two. But gradually, steadily, steel became the standard. The oak filing cabinet became a memory, and the gray steel cabinet became an icon. Let that image settle. The cool, smooth surface of a steel drawer, the quiet solidity of it, the way it slides open with a steady, even pull. And as steel made standardization possible, manufacturers began to think about something else: flexibility. A single filing cabinet was useful, but an office that was growing, taking on more staff, handling more clients, generating more paper, that office needed a storage system that could grow with it. And so manufacturers introduced modular, stackable designs. Rather than selling one large, fixed cabinet, they began offering units that could be bought individually and stacked on top of one another. A small office might start with 2 drawers. As it grew, it could add another unit, and another, building upward as the need arose. Each unit was designed to sit perfectly on top of the one below it, creating a seamless, stable column of storage. It was a simple idea, but it was also, in its quiet way, a very thoughtful one. It recognized that offices were not static things. They changed. They grew. They needed solutions that could change and grow alongside them. The filing cabinet was becoming not just a piece of furniture, but a system, adaptable, scalable, ready for whatever the office might become. And so, by the first decade of the 20th century, something remarkable had happened. A problem that had troubled offices and workplaces for centuries, the problem of paper, of accumulation, of the impossibility of finding what you needed when you needed it, had been solved. Not perfectly, not once and for all, but thoroughly enough that the solution would remain in place for the better part of 100 years. The filing cabinet had arrived. Upright folders, smooth steel drawers, modular, stackable, standardized. A place for everything, and everything in its place. Let your body settle a little deeper. Feel the quiet satisfaction of a problem solved. The long journey from clay tablets and papyrus scrolls, from spindle files and pigeonholes, from white flat drawers and leather-bound ledges, all of it leading here, to something as simple and useful as a steel drawer that slides. There's no hurry. The story will continue. For now, just rest. Welcome back. Let yourself settle. Let the day move a little further away. We've come quite a distance in this story already, from clay tablets and papyrus scrolls, through spindle files and pigeonholes, through the slow accumulation of patents and experiments, all the way to the steel vertical filing cabinet standing in offices at the turn of the 20th century. Drawers that slid, folders that stood upright, a place for everything. But the story doesn't end with the object itself, because the filing cabinet didn't just change where paper was kept. It changed something deeper than that. It changed the way people thought about information, what it was, how it could be used, who could use it. Take a slow breath. Let your body feel heavy and comfortable. And let's follow the story a little further. Before the filing cabinet, most offices organized their records in one of 2 ways: by date or by ledger. By date meant that documents were stored in the order they arrived. This week's letters in one bundle, last week's in another, last month somewhere further back. It was a system that made reasonable sense if you needed to know what had happened recently, but almost no sense at all if you needed to know everything about a particular person, or a particular subject, or a particular transaction that might have unfolded over months or years. By ledger meant recording information into large bound books, columns of figures, lines of text, everything entered in order and kept together. The ledger was a permanent record, but a rigid one. Once something was written in, it stayed where it was written. You couldn't reorganize it. You couldn't take one entry out and move it somewhere else. The ledger held information the way a wall holds bricks, securely, but immovably. Let that image rest for a moment. Information that cannot be moved. Records that are fixed in place, organized by the accident of when they arrived rather than by what they actually mean. The filing cabinet offered something entirely different. For the first time, a document could be stored not by when it arrived, but by what it was about. A letter from a customer could be placed in that customer's folder. A contract relating to a particular project could go into that project's file. A record concerning a specific topic, a legal matter, a supplier, a piece of equipment, could live with all the other records about that same topic, regardless of when any of them had been created. This sounds straightforward. It sounds almost too obvious to be worth noting, but in the context of the time, it was a genuine conceptual shift. It meant that information could be grouped by meaning, by relationship, by relevance, rather than by the simple, arbitrary fact of sequence. Businesses began creating customer files. a folder for each client, holding everything related to them, correspondence, invoices, contracts, notes, all in one place, all retrievable at once. They created case files, topic files, project files, structured systems of record keeping that reflected the actual shape of the work being done, rather than just the order in which paperwork had accumulated. Let that settle gently. The idea that information could be arranged to reflect meaning, that a record could live next to the records it belonged with, rather than simply next to the records that happened to arrive at the same time. And there was something else the filing cabinet made possible that the ledger never could. A document stored in a folder could be taken out. It could be removed from its drawer, carried across the room, handed to a colleague, placed on a desk, consulted, annotated, and returned. It could be shared. It could be passed from one person to another without being copied out by hand, without the entire ledger having to move with it. A single piece of paper, in its folder, could travel through an office and come back again. This meant that information, for the first time in most workplaces, could flow. It could move between people, between departments, between desks. It could be reorganized when circumstances changed, a folder renamed, a document moved to a different section, a file restructured to reflect a new way of thinking about the work. Before this, knowledge in an office was often concentrated in a small number of people: the senior clerks, the bookkeepers, the individuals who had spent years learning where everything was and how it all fitted together. Information lived, in a very real sense, inside those people's heads as much as it lived on any shelf or in any ledger. If they left, they took a great deal with them. The filing cabinet began to change that. When records were organized into retrievable folders, clearly labeled and systematically arranged, the knowledge of where things were and how they related to each other was no longer locked inside any one person. It belonged to the system. Anyone who understood the system could find what they needed. Take a slow breath. The quiet democratization of information. The way a simple drawer, a simple folder, a simple label could make knowledge accessible to more than just a few. The effects of all this rippled outward, slowly and thoroughly, into the shape of the office itself. Before the filing cabinet, the desk was often a storage unit as well as a workspace. Papers accumulated on it, in drawers within it, in boxes and trays around it. The surface of a working desk in a busy office was rarely clear, because there was nowhere else for things to go. The desk was the system, with filing cabinets lining the walls. That began to change. The desk became a workspace, a clear, open surface for the work of the present moment. Active papers lived on it while they were being dealt with. Everything else had a home elsewhere, in the drawers of the cabinet, waiting quietly until it was needed again. This separation, the desk for active work, the cabinet for stored records, seemed simple, but it represented a real reorganization of how an office functioned. The workspace became cleaner. The mind of the person working in it became, in some measure, cleaner too. There is something genuinely calming about a clear surface, about knowing that everything is in its place and can be found when the moment comes. Let that image settle softly. A clear desk, a quiet room, the knowledge that everything is filed, everything is ordered, everything is where it belongs. Offices also began developing more formal internal systems to manage the flow of paper, structures that the filing cabinet made both possible and necessary. In-files and out-files appeared, a tray or folder for documents that had just arrived and needed attention, another for documents that had been dealt with and were ready to be filed away or passed on. The simple act of naming these two categories, in and out, created a rhythm for the working day. Things arrived, were dealt with, and were resolved. The paper moved through the office the way work itself moved through the office, with a beginning, a middle, and an end. Alongside this came the distinction between active records and inactive ones. An active file was one currently in use, a client relationship ongoing, a project underway, a matter unresolved. An inactive file was one that had been concluded, a completed project, a closed account, a resolved case. Active files lived in the main cabinets, close at hand. Inactive files could be moved further away, into archive storage, making room for what was current without losing what was past. This gradation, active, inactive, archived, introduced a kind of temporal intelligence into office organization. Not just where things were, but how recently they mattered, how likely they were to be needed again. Rest with that for a moment. The quiet logic of it, the way a good system mirrors the natural rhythm of work, present, recent, past, and gives each its proper place. There was another consequence of the filing cabinet's rise that is easy to overlook, but worth pausing on. It helps standardize the size of paper itself. When documents are stored flat in boxes or bundled with string, the exact dimensions of each sheet don't matter very much. But when documents are stored upright in folders, inside drawers of a fixed size, everything needs to fit. The drawer has a width. The folder has a width. The paper needs to fit inside the folder. This practical constraint pushed offices, and eventually, paper manufacturers, toward consistency. If your filing cabinet was built for a certain size of document, you bought paper that size. If everyone's filing cabinets were built to the same dimensions, everyone eventually bought the same size of paper. The filing cabinet, in this quiet and almost invisible way, became one of the forces that standardized office paper across entire industries and eventually entire countries. What we now think of as standard paper sizes, the sheets we reach for without thinking, the ones that fit into every printer and every folder without a second thought, are, in part, the legacy of a decision made about the width of a filing cabinet drawer. Let that settle gently. The way one practical decision, made for simple reasons, ripples outward and shapes things we never think about. The filing cabinet also shaped the physical layout of offices in ways that are still visible today. When storage moves off the desk and into dedicated furniture, the furniture needs a place to go. Filing cabinets lined walls. They defined corridors between rows of desks. They created the geography of the modern office, the open plan, the clear aisles, the sense of a space organized around work rather than around the accumulation of things. In larger offices, entire rooms were given over to records, filing rooms, later called records rooms or archive rooms, staffed by clerks whose entire job was the management and retrieval of documents. The filing cabinet had grown from a piece of furniture into an organizational infrastructure, from a drawer into a department, and the space savings were real. A vertical filing cabinet could hold an enormous quantity of paper in a relatively small footprint, far more than the flat drawers and wide shelves and overflowing pigeonholes it replaced. An office that adopted vertical filing could store the same number of documents in substantially less space, freeing room for desks, for people, for work. The office was becoming something new, more ordered, more legible, more efficient. Not perfect. Offices are never perfect, but genuinely transformed. By 1920, the filing cabinet had spread far beyond the commercial office. It had become a piece of furniture found almost everywhere that records needed to be kept. Schools used them to store student records, attendance registers, correspondence with parents, administrative files. Government offices, local and national, relied on them for the records of citizens, of departments, of public works, of policy decisions. Churches kept their records of congregations, of baptisms and marriages and funerals, of donations and accounts, in filing cabinet drawers. In just 2 decades, something that had barely existed at the turn of the century had become a fixture of organized life. A piece of furniture so ordinary, so taken for granted, that most people who opened one gave no thought at all to the long, patient journey that had produced it. Let that thought drift through you quietly. The way a useful thing, once it exists, becomes invisible, becomes simply part of the world, part of the furniture, in the most literal sense. The filing cabinet had arrived, in offices and schools, in churches and government buildings, in the back rooms of small businesses and the long corridors of great institutions. Everywhere that human beings kept records, which is to say, everywhere. The steel drawer, the hanging folder, The neat alphabetical label had become part of the fabric of daily life. And with that arrival came something quietly profound. A new relationship between people and the information they kept. A new sense that records could be organized, could be found, could be shared, could be used. That knowledge was not the private possession of the few, but a common resource, accessible to anyone who knew where to look. Let your breathing slow. Let your thoughts settle like papers filing themselves gently into place. The day is far away now. The story is still here, quiet and unhurried, waiting for you whenever you're ready to continue. For now, simply rest. Welcome back, or welcome, if this is where you're joining the story tonight. Take a moment to settle. Let your body find its comfortable weight. There's nothing pressing, nothing urgent, just the quiet story of an ordinary object and the surprisingly far-reaching ways it changed the world around it. We've watched the filing cabinet come into existence, the long, patient accumulation of ideas and patents and small improvements that produced something genuinely new. We've seen how it transformed the office, how it changed the relationship between people and the information they kept. And now we're going to follow the story outward, into the wider world. Because the filing cabinet didn't stay in the office. Its influence spread further than anyone who built the first steel drawers could possibly have imagined. Take a slow breath. Let your shoulders drop, and let's continue. One of the most significant effects of the filing cabinet's rise was one that had nothing to do with paper at all. It had to do with people. As offices expanded, as filing systems grew more complex, as the volume of records requiring management increased year by year, a new kind of work came into being. Clerical work, the work of maintaining, organizing, retrieving, and managing records, became a distinct and recognized occupation. And with it came a need for people to do it. For much of the 19th century, office work had been almost exclusively the domain of men. The clerk, the bookkeeper, the secretary. These were male roles, part of a professional world that women had very little access to. But as offices grew and the demand for clerical labor expanded, something began to shift. Women began entering office work in significant numbers, and filing was one of the doors through which they came. The work of maintaining a filing system, sorting, labeling, retrieving, refiling, was skilled work that required care, attention, and intelligence. It did not require physical strength. It did not require years of apprenticeship in a trade. It was work that could be learned, work that could be done, work that opened a path into a professional environment that had previously been largely closed. Let that settle for a moment. A steel drawer, a paper folder, a label on a tab, and through that small opening, a larger world becoming a little more accessible. It was not a simple story, and it was not without its complications. The expansion of women into clerical roles was often accompanied by the assumption that such work was less skilled, less valuable, and therefore less well paid than the male office work it sat alongside. The filing clerk was rarely the most celebrated figure in any organization, but the significance of that entry point was real. For many women, a clerical position in an office, however modestly regarded, represented independence, a wage of their own, a place in the working world. It was a beginning, and beginnings matter. The filing cabinet, in this quiet and indirect way, was part of a social change. Not the cause of it. The causes were many and deep, but a participant in it. One of the practical mechanisms through which a shifting world found its new shape. Rest with that thought gently. The way large social changes are often carried forward by small, practical things. A new piece of furniture, a new kind of job, a new kind of possibility. Beyond the workplace, the filing cabinet was becoming something else as well. It was becoming a symbol. Objects acquire meaning over time, and the filing cabinet acquired meaning quickly. In the early decades of the 20th century, it came to stand for something, for efficiency, for order, for the kind of modern, rational, well-organized approach to business that the era admired. A company with rows of well-maintained filing cabinets was a company that had its affairs in order, a company that knew what it was doing. Manufacturers understood this and leaned into it. They marketed their cabinets not merely as storage solutions, but as something closer to a statement of intent. The language they used was revealing. Some companies described their products as a form of corporate memory, a way for a business to remember everything, to retain, perfectly and permanently, every transaction, every correspondence, every decision, to be an organization that forgot nothing. There's something almost poignant about that phrase. Corporate memory, the idea that a business could have a memory, the way a person has a memory, that the accumulated paper in those steel drawers was not just storage, but recollection, the institutional equivalent of experience and knowledge, held safely against the possibility of forgetting. Let that image drift through you quietly. Rows of drawers, each one holding a piece of a company's past, the memory of 1,000 transactions, 1,000 letters, 1,000 small decisions that together made up the story of how a business had lived and grown. And in some offices, those rows of cabinets were not hidden away in back rooms or tucked into corners. They were displayed, proudly, deliberately, as a visible sign of substance and success. A visitor walking into a well-appointed office in the 1910s or 1920s might have seen an entire wall of steel filing cabinets, tall, gleaming, perfectly aligned. The message was clear, even if unspoken. This organization has records. It has history. It keeps track of things. It is serious, substantial, worth doing business with. The filing cabinet as status symbol is not something we tend to think about today. We're more likely to think of them as dull, as background furniture, as the gray and unremarkable containers of bureaucratic tedium. But there was a time when they represented something aspirational, when owning a good set of filing cabinets meant something. Take a slow breath. Let that image settle. The gleaming row of cabinets, the carefully pressed folders, the sense of a well-ordered world held confidently in place. As the filing cabinet's place in the world became more secure, the manufacturers who built them began to think about how they could be improved. The basic design was sound, but sound designs can always be refined. One of the most practical additions was also one of the simplest, the manila folder. Manila folders, those familiar pale yellow-brown envelopes of card, open at the top and along one side, became the standard companion to the filing cabinet drawer. Made from manila hemp fiber, they were sturdy enough to protect the papers inside them, light enough not to add significant weight, and inexpensive enough to be used in large quantities without much thought. Every document got a folder. Every folder got a label. Every label got a name. The manila folder and the filing cabinet belonged together so naturally that it became difficult to imagine one without the other. The folder gave each document a home within the drawer, a clear identity, a surface on which its contents could be named. Without the folder, a drawer full of loose papers was still a drawer full of loose papers. With the folder, it became a filing system. Let that settle softly. The quiet usefulness of a simple thing. A piece of card, folded once, open at the top, and inside it, order. The drawers themselves were also being improved. Early filing cabinet drawers ran on simple wooden or metal runners, functional, but not always smooth. Over time, manufacturers began fitting drawers with ball-bearing mechanisms. Ball bearings are small metal spheres that sit between two surfaces, allowing them to move against each other with almost no friction. In a filing cabinet drawer, they meant that the drawer could be opened and closed with a single, smooth, effortless pull, gliding out silently, gliding back in without a catch or shudder. The weight of a full drawer, which could be considerable, became easy to manage. The act of opening a cabinet became, in its small way, satisfying. It is a detail that might seem trivial, but anyone who has spent time with filing cabinets, anyone who has opened and closed dozens of drawers in the course of a working day, will understand the difference between a drawer that sticks and a drawer that glides. The ball-bearing drawer was one of those small improvements that made a piece of furniture a genuine pleasure to use. Rest with that image for a moment. The smooth, silent glide of a well-made drawer. The soft sound of it closing. Another refinement addressed a more serious concern: safety. A tall filing cabinet, fully loaded with paper, is a heavy piece of furniture. And a heavy piece of furniture, if it becomes unstable, can cause real harm. The danger was specific and recognized. If two or more drawers of a cabinet were opened at the same time, pulled out to their full extension, adding their weight to the front of the cabinet, the whole unit could tip forward. Anti-tilt mechanisms were developed to prevent this. A system of interlocking parts ensured that only one drawer could be opened at a time. If one drawer was already out, the others were locked in place. Simple, invisible, reliable. The kind of safety feature that works best when you never have cause to notice it, when it simply prevents something from happening without calling any attention to itself. Manufacturers also began fitting some cabinets with wheels, small casters mounted to the base that allowed a cabinet to be rolled from one position to another. A mobile cabinet could follow the wike, move between offices, be repositioned without effort. In a world where offices were always rearranging themselves, a cabinet that could move was a cabinet that could adapt. Let that thought drift through you gently. The way good design thinks ahead. The way the best solutions are the ones you never have to think about, because they quietly handle everything on your behalf. As filing cabinets became a fixture of organized life, the basic concept began to expand and specialize. Different kinds of records required different kinds of storage, and manufacturers began producing cabinets designed for specific purposes. Index card cabinets appeared, smaller, shallower drawers designed to hold the standardized cards used for cataloging, for mailing lists, for reference systems of all kinds. Libraries used them. Businesses used them. Doctors and dentists used them. The index card and its cabinet became a complete information system in miniature, each card holding a single entry, each drawer holding hundreds of cards, each cabinet holding thousands. At the other extreme, massive filing systems were built to manage the enormous mailing lists that growing businesses were beginning to compile. These large-scale cabinets, sometimes called truck cabinets for their considerable size, could hold tens of thousands of names and addresses, organized and accessible in ways that would have been completely impossible just a generation before. Some banking systems even incorporated mechanical counting features, filing mechanisms that could track quantities, flag conditions, assist with the management of financial records. The filing cabinet was evolving, branching, specializing, finding new forms for new needs. And in doing so, it helped enable something that would become one of the defining features of modern commercial life: mass marketing and subscription business. To send a letter to a customer, you needed to know who your customers were. You needed their names, their addresses, their history with your company. You needed records. With an organized, accessible, well-maintained filing system, a business could do something remarkable. It could reach out to hundreds, or thousands, or tens of thousands of people, each communication personalized, each record up to date. The subscription model, the idea of a customer who paid regularly, month after month, year after year, for an ongoing service, depended on exactly this kind of record keeping. You needed to know who had subscribed, when their subscription was due, whether they had paid, when they had last been contacted. Without a filing system capable of managing that complexity, the subscription business simply could not function at scale. The filing cabinet, in this way, was not just a piece of office furniture. It was infrastructure, the quiet, invisible foundation on which entire new forms of commerce were built. Let that thought settle slowly. The way the most important structures are often the ones we don't see. The ones that hold everything up without ever drawing attention to themselves. So here we are, a little deeper into the story of an object that most of us have barely thought about since the last time we opened one. And what a story it is turning out to be. New jobs, new possibilities, new kinds of commerce. A symbol of efficiency and memory and corporate ambition. Folders and ball bearings and anti-tilt locks and wheels. Index cards and mailing lists and the quiet beginnings of the modern world, all of it connected, somehow, to a steel drawer that slides open with a single smooth pull. to a label on a tab, to a folder waiting patiently in the dark. Let your breathing slow. Let the weight of the day settle further away. The world outside is quiet, and the story will be here whenever you're ready to continue. For now, simply rest. Welcome back. Let yourself arrive here gently. Let the outside world grow a little quieter, a little more distant. We've come a long way in this story together, from the earliest clay tablets and papyrus scrolls, through the slow invention of vertical filing, through the transformation of the modern office, through the social changes and commercial innovations that the filing cabinet quietly helped to bring about. It has been, in its unhurried way, quite a journey. Tonight we're going to look at the filing cabinet from a slightly different angle. Not just what it did, but what it looked like, how it changed over time, how people related to it not just as a tool, but as an object in their lives, something to be lived with, something to be designed, something to be hidden or displayed or made beautiful. And then we'll follow the story into some of its stranger and more unexpected corners. Take a slow breath, let your body settle, and let's continue. When most of us picture a filing cabinet, we picture the same thing. A rectangular steel box, probably gray, probably 4 drawers tall, standing against a wall in an office somewhere. Utilitarian, functional, entirely without pretension. But the filing cabinet did not begin that way. The earliest cabinets, those wooden predecessors from the late 19th century, built in the days before steel standardization made everything uniform, were often genuinely beautiful pieces of furniture. Oak was the dominant material, as we've noted before, and oak lends itself to craftsmanship. Early filing cabinets were made by cabinet makers who brought to them the same attention and skill they brought to any fine piece of furniture. There were carved details, decorative moldings, polished brass handles, elegant proportions. These were objects designed to sit comfortably in a well-appointed office, alongside mahogany desks and leather chairs, without looking out of place. Let that image take shape for a moment. Not a gray steel box, but a piece of warm, carefully crafted oak furniture. Drawers that open smoothly, handles that catch the light, with grain that runs in long, even lines from top to bottom. Something made with care, designed to be looked at as well as used. The transition to steel brought standardization, and standardization brought uniformity, and uniformity, almost inevitably, brought a certain plainness. The steel filing cabinet of the mid-20th century was efficient, durable, consistent, and not particularly beautiful. It did its job without apology and without ornament. But not everyone was content to leave it there. As design culture developed through the mid-20th century, as the idea took hold that everyday objects could be beautiful as well as functional, that good design was not a luxury but a right, some designers turned their attention to even the most ordinary pieces of office furniture. Florence Knoll was one of them, a designer and businesswoman who helped shape the aesthetic of the modern American office. Knoll approached furniture with the conviction that every object in a room contributed to the character of that room. Her work brought clean lines, considered proportions, and genuine elegance to office furniture that had previously been designed with almost no aesthetic intention at all. Filing cabinets included. A Knoll cabinet was not merely a container for paper. It was a piece of design, something that belonged in a thoughtfully arranged space, that contributed to the feeling of a room rather than simply occupying it. The cabinet is furniture, in the fullest and most respectful sense of the word. Let that settle gently. The idea that even the most functional object deserves to be thought about carefully, that the things we live and work alongside every day are worth designing well. But there was another approach to the problem of the filing cabinet's appearance, one that took a rather different direction. Rather than making the cabinet beautiful, some designers and manufacturers chose to make it invisible. The challenge was a real one. A large, boxy piece of metal furniture, however well made, does not always sit harmoniously in every room. A home office that was also a sitting room, a study that was also a library, a professional space that was also meant to feel welcoming and domestic. In all of these settings, a row of steel filing cabinets could feel intrusive, out of place. a reminder of work in a room meant for something else. The solution was disguise. Cabinets were designed and built to look like other pieces of furniture entirely. A filing cabinet disguised as a bookcase, with false book spines concealing the drawer fronts, or with real shelves above hiding the filing section below. A cabinet built to resemble a sideboard, its drawers indistinguishable at a glance from those of any other piece of dining room furniture. A wardrobe-style cabinet, tall and paneled, that opened to reveal hanging files rather than clothes. The filing cabinet, in this way, was not just a piece of office furniture. It was infrastructure, the quiet, invisible foundation on which entire new forms of commerce were built. Let that thought settle slowly. The way the most important structures are often the ones we don't see, the ones that hold everything up without ever drawing attention to themselves. So here we are, a little deeper into the story of an object that most of us have barely thought about since the last time we opened one. And what a story it is turning out to be. New jobs, new possibilities, new kinds of commerce. A symbol of efficiency in memory and corporate ambition. Folders and ball bearings and anti-tilt locks and wheels. Index cards and mailing lists and the quiet beginnings of the modern world. All of it connected, somehow, to a steel drawer that slides open with a single smooth pull. To a label on a tab. To a folder waiting patiently in the dark. Let your breathing slow. Let the weight of the day settle further away. The world outside is quiet, and the story will be here whenever you're ready to continue. For now, simply rest. Welcome back. Let yourself arrive here gently. Let the outside world grow a little quieter, a little more distant. We've come a long way in this story together, from the earliest clay tablets and papyrus scrolls, through the slow invention of vertical filing, through the transformation of the modern office, through the social changes and commercial innovations that the filing cabinet quietly helped to bring about. It has been, in its unhurried way, quite a journey. Tonight we're going to look at the filing cabinet from a slightly different angle. Not just what it did, but what it looked like, how it changed over time, how people related to it not just as a tool, but as an object in their lives, something to be lived with, something to be designed, something to be hidden or displayed or made beautiful. And then we'll follow the story into some of its stranger and more unexpected corners. Take a slow breath. Let your body settle. And let's continue. When most of us picture a filing cabinet, we picture the same thing. A rectangular steel box, probably gray, probably 4 drawers tall, standing against a wall in an office somewhere. Utilitarian, functional, entirely without pretension. But the filing cabinet did not begin that way. The earliest cabinets, those wooden predecessors from the late 19th century, built in the days before steel standardization made everything uniform, were often genuinely beautiful pieces of furniture. Oak was the dominant material, as we've noted before, and oak lends itself to craftsmanship. Early filing cabinets were made by cabinet makers who brought to them the same attention and skill they brought to any fine piece of furniture. There were carved details, decorative moldings, polished brass handles, elegant proportions. These were objects designed to sit comfortably in a well-appointed office, alongside mahogany desks and leather chairs, without looking out of place. Let that image take shape for a moment. Not a gray steel box, but a piece of warm, carefully crafted oak furniture. Drawers that open smoothly, handles that catch the light, with grain that runs in long, even lines from top to bottom. Something made with care, designed to be looked at as well as used. The transition to steel brought standardization, and standardization brought uniformity, and uniformity, almost inevitably, brought a certain plainness. The steel filing cabinet of the mid-20th century was efficient, durable, consistent, and not particularly beautiful. It did its job without apology and without ornament. But not everyone was content to leave it there. As design culture developed through the mid-20th century, as the idea took hold that everyday objects could be beautiful as well as functional, that good design was not a luxury but a right, some designers turned their attention to even the most ordinary pieces of office furniture. Florence Knoll was one of them. a designer and businesswoman who helped shape the aesthetic of the modern American office, Knoll approached furniture with the conviction that every object in a room contributed to the character of that room. Her work brought clean lines, considered proportions, and genuine elegance to office furniture that had previously been designed with almost no aesthetic intention at all. Filing cabinets included. A Knoll cabinet was not merely a container for paper. It was a piece of design, something that belonged in a thoughtfully arranged space, that contributed to the feeling of a room rather than simply occupying it. The cabinet is furniture, in the fullest and most respectful sense of the word. Let that settle gently. The idea that even the most functional object deserves to be thought about carefully. That the things we live and work alongside every day are worth designing well. But there was another approach to the problem of the filing cabinet's appearance, one that took a rather different direction. Rather than making the cabinet beautiful, some designers and manufacturers chose to make it invisible. The challenge was a real one. A large, boxy piece of metal furniture, however well made, does not always sit harmoniously in every room. A home office that was also a sitting room, a study that was also a library, a professional space that was also meant to feel welcoming and domestic. In all of these settings, a row of steel filing cabinets could feel intrusive, out of place, a reminder of work in a room meant for something else. The solution was disguise. Cabinets were designed and built to look like other pieces of furniture entirely. A filing cabinet disguised as a bookcase, with false book spines concealing the drawer fronts, or with real shelves above hiding the filing section below. A cabinet built to resemble a sideboard, its drawers indistinguishable at a glance from those of any other piece of dining room furniture. A wardrobe-style cabinet, tall and paneled, that opened to reveal hanging files rather than clothes. These disguised cabinets occupied a curious position, objects that were simultaneously what they appeared to be and something else entirely. A bookcase that remembered, a sideboard that filed, a wardrobe full of records rather than garments. Rest with that image for a moment. The quiet ingenuity of it, the way a familiar shape can contain an unexpected purpose, the way the most ordinary-looking objects sometimes have more going on inside them than they let on. Through all these variations in material and style, through all the experiments in design and concealment, one configuration was gradually emerging as the dominant form. By the middle of the 20th century, the standard four-drawer vertical filing cabinet had become the norm. 4 drawers, each one roughly letter size in width. The full cabinet standing somewhere between 4 and 5 feet tall, at about eye level when standing, so that even the top drawer could be reached comfortably without stretching. The drawers evenly spaced, each one labeled, each one holding its particular portion of the alphabet or the archive. There's something satisfying about the way this particular form settled into place. It wasn't decreed by anyone. It wasn't the result of a single design decision. It emerged gradually, through the accumulated choices of thousands of manufacturers and millions of offices, each one finding that 4 drawers worked better than 3 or 5, that this particular height and width fitted the most spaces and suited the most people. The 4-drawer filing cabinet is, in its quiet way, a piece of collective design, shaped not by any individual but by the slow, democratic process of widespread use, by generations of office workers opening and closing drawers, finding what worked and what didn't, gradually converging on the form that served them best. Let that thought drift through you softly. The way usefulness, tested over time, produces its own kind of beauty, the beauty of something that simply fits. And now the story takes a turn into stranger territory, because the filing cabinet, for all its orderly associations, has not been without its dramatic moments. We'll begin with a chapter from the middle of the 20th century, from the particular anxieties of the Cold War years, when the world lived with a tension that colored almost everything, including, as it turns out, office furniture. The Cold War was a period of sustained international tension, lasting from roughly the late 1940s through to the early 1990s, during which the United States and the Soviet Union stood in uneasy opposition, each armed with nuclear weapons of staggering destructive power. The threat of nuclear war was not abstract during those years. It was present. It was planned for. It was taken seriously by governments and institutions at every level. And when governments and large institutions plan for catastrophe, they think about their records. Because records, the documents that capture decisions, the files that hold identities and histories, the archives that preserve the accumulated knowledge of an organization, are among the most vulnerable and most valuable things in any crisis. In response to this, some filing cabinets were designed and built to a quite different standard than the ordinary office variety. Cabinets intended for use in sensitive government locations or military installations were engineered to withstand the kinds of forces that no ordinary piece of furniture could survive. Blast-resistant cabinets, built with reinforced steel and carefully sealed construction, were designed to remain intact in the event of an explosion nearby. Not a direct hit, but the concussive wave of a blast at some distance. The idea was that the cabinet and its contents might survive even when the building around them did not. And some specialized cabinets went further still, incorporating radiation detection equipment, instruments built directly into the furniture that could monitor ambient radiation levels and signal a warning if they rose beyond a safe threshold. A filing cabinet that could tell you, quietly and precisely, how dangerous the air around it had become. It is a remarkable image. The filing cabinet, that symbol of orderly office life, of tidy records and alphabetical tabs, reimagined as a piece of survival equipment, designed not for the smooth functioning of a busy office, but for the possibility of a world in which the office no longer existed and only the records remained. Let that image rest for a moment. The strange, quiet gravity of it. A drawer full of documents, sealed against the unthinkable. But we don't need to travel as far as the Cold War to find drama in the history of the filing cabinet. There's a closer, more domestic story, one from 1945, in the years just after the Second World War, when an ordinary piece of office furniture revealed a flaw serious enough to earn it a chilling nickname. In the years of post-war expansion, as offices grew and filing cabinets multiplied, a dangerous problem came to widespread attention. It had always existed, in a sense. It was a consequence of the basic physics of the object. But as cabinets became heavier, as their drawers were packed more fully, as offices became busier and more careless, the consequences became harder to ignore. The problem was simple. A tall filing cabinet, heavily loaded with paper, has most of its weight in its drawers. When a drawer is pulled open to its full extension, that weight shifts forward. If two or more drawers are open at the same time, particularly two drawers near the top of the cabinet, the entire unit can become front-heavy. And a front-heavy cabinet, on a smooth floor, with nothing to anchor it, can tip forward. A toppling filing cabinet is not a trivial hazard. A fully loaded 4-drawer steel cabinet can weigh well over 100 kilograms. Falling forward, with the weight of all that metal and paper, it can cause serious injury to anyone in its path. The cabinets that exhibited this tendency most dangerously became known, in the industry and in the offices that had experienced their failures, as killer cabinets. It is a stock name for a piece of office furniture, but it reflected a real danger that had injured real people. The response to this recognition was practical and thorough. Manufacturers developed and refined the anti-tilt mechanism, the interlocking system that ensures only one drawer can be open at a time. We touched on this in an earlier segment, but it bears returning to here, because the story behind it gives it a different weight. The anti-tilt lock is not just a clever piece of engineering. It is a safety device with a specific history, developed in direct response to a specific harm. Every time a filing cabinet drawer locks when another drawer is already open. Every time you pull at a drawer and find it firmly, reliably closed. That small resistance is the legacy of an injury that someone wanted to make sure would not happen again. The best safety features are the ones you never notice. The ones that do their work silently, invisibly, reliably, day after day, without ever asking for acknowledgement. The anti-tilt mechanism is one of those. You may never think about it, but someone, at some point, thought about it very carefully indeed. Let that settle gently. the quiet care embedded in ordinary things, the thought and attention that goes into the objects we use without thinking, the small protections that surround us without our ever being aware of them. And so the filing cabinet continued to evolve, from ornate oak to sleek steel, from plain utility to considered design, from simple drawers to blast-resistant vaults and interlocking safety mechanisms, always changing, always adapting, always finding new forms for new needs and new times. The four-drawer cabinet that became the standard was not the end of the story. It was simply the settled form that the story had reached by mid-century, the shape the object had found after decades of experiment and refinement. Beneath its plain gray surface was a long history of thought and craft and care. Let your body settle a little further. Let the day grow quieter still. The filing cabinet stands in the corner of the office, drawers closed, contents waiting patiently in the dark. Everything in its place. Everything where it belongs. The story will continue. For now, simply rest. Welcome back. Or perhaps you've been here all along, drifting quietly through the story. Let yourself settle. Let your breathing slow. There's nothing to do right now but rest and listen. We're coming toward the end of our journey with the filing cabinet tonight. And for this final segment, we're going to step back a little, to take in the broader view, to look at what this object meant, what it left behind, and why something as plain and ordinary as a steel drawer deserves to be thought of as one of the quiet shapers of the modern world. It's a bigger story than you might expect, but we'll take it gently, without any hurry at all. Take a slow breath. Let your shoulders drop, and let's begin. Before computers, before databases, before servers and cloud storage and the invisible architecture of digital information, before any of that, organizations needed a way to store, organize, and retrieve large quantities of information reliably and quickly. The filing cabinet was that way. It is easy, from where we stand now, to take this for granted. We live in a world so thoroughly saturated with digital storage that the idea of information existing in any other form can feel almost quaint. But for the better part of a century, from roughly the 1900s through to the 1980s and beyond, the filing cabinet was the primary information storage system of the modern world. For businesses, for governments, for hospitals, for schools, for courts of law and departments of state, the filing cabinet was where knowledge lived. Think about what that means for a moment. Every customer record, every legal document, every medical history, every government decision, every financial transaction that needed to be kept, all of it existed on paper. And all of that paper lived in drawers. Steel drawers, organized into systems, maintained by people whose job it was to ensure that what went in could always be found again. The filing cabinet was, in the most literal and practical sense, the database of its time. Let that settle quietly. The weight of that, an entire civilization's worth of information, held in rows of steel drawers, waiting patiently in offices and records rooms around the world. And like any good database, the filing cabinet was built around a set of organizing principles. Principles so useful, so well suited to the nature of information, that they did not disappear when the filing cabinet began to fade. They survived. They migrated. They found a new home. When the first personal computers began appearing in offices in the late 1970s and 1980s, the people who designed their operating systems faced a fundamental challenge. They needed to give users a way to organize and store digital information. They needed a mental model, a framework that people could understand intuitively, without extensive training, because the computer was supposed to be accessible to everyone. They turned to what people already knew: the digital file, the digital folder, the idea of organized retrieval, of being able to put something away and find it again by navigating a structure of nested categories. All of it borrowed, quite deliberately, from the world of the filing cabinet. When you save a document to your computer, you save it as a file. When you organize your files, you put them in folders. When you look for something, you navigate a directory, a word that itself echoes the filing room, the index, the organized system of named locations where things can be found. None of this is accidental. The designers of early computer systems were working in offices that contained filing cabinets. They were people who understood, from daily experience, how information could be organized physically, and when they needed to explain digital organization to users who had never encountered it before, they reached for the language and the logic that those users already understood. The filing cabinet gave the digital world its vocabulary, its mental model, its fundamental structure. In a very real sense, every time you create a folder on your desktop, you are thinking in a way that the filing cabinet taught you. Let that thought drift through you for a moment. The quiet continuity of it. An idea born in a wooden drawer in a 19th century office, traveling forward through time, finding its way into the screens and systems that shape our lives today. We don't see the connection, usually. The desktop of a computer and the drawer of a filing cabinet don't look much alike. But beneath the surface, in the logic of how information is held, named, grouped, and found, they are the same idea, expressed in different materials. The filing cabinet is still with us. We just stopped being able to see it. Historians who study the history of information and technology have a phrase for the filing cabinet that captures something important about it. They call it an information machine, not a dramatic machine, not a machine with moving parts or impressive mechanisms or visible power. A quiet machine, a patient machine, one that did its work without noise or spectacle, standing against the walls of offices for decades, opening and closing thousands of times, holding its contents reliably through all of it. The word machine is deliberate, though, because a machine is something that does work, something that takes a problem and applies a systematic solution to it, something that makes possible what would otherwise be impossible, or at least impractical, at scale. The filing cabinet did exactly that. It took the problem of large-scale information management, a problem that had been growing for centuries, that had overwhelmed every previous solution, and it solved it. Not perfectly, not forever, but thoroughly enough to enable an entire era of modern organization, an era of large businesses, large governments, large institutions of every kind, all of them dependent on their ability to keep records and find them again. Without the filing cabinet, or something very like it, the scale of modern civilization would simply not have been possible. The large corporation, the National Health Service, the bureaucratic state, the mass market business, all of these depend on information management. And for most of the 20th century, information management meant filing cabinets. Let that rest for a moment. The quiet, enormous significance of something so ordinary. The way the most important machinery is often the kind you walk past without noticing. Modern business owes a considerable debt to the filing cabinet, though it rarely acknowledges it. The practices and principles that the filing cabinet introduced, consistent record keeping, accessible archives, organized retrieval, the systematic management of institutional memory, became so fundamental to how organizations function that they stopped being associated with any particular technology and simply became the way things were done. When a company tracks its customer relationships, it is following a practice that the filing cabinet made possible. When a government department maintains records of its decisions, it is using a logic that the filing cabinet introduced. When a hospital keeps patient histories in organized, retrievable form, it is operating within a system of thought that the filing cabinet helped to create. These practices predate computers. They predate digital databases. They were worked out, painstakingly and practically, by the people who managed filing systems in offices across the 20th century. The clerks and records managers and administrative staff who understood, from daily experience, how information needed to be organized in order to be useful. The computer did not invent organized information management. It inherited it. It took what the filing cabinet had established and translated it into a new medium. The principles remained. Only the material changed. There is something worth sitting with in that observation. We tend to think of technology as a series of ruptures, each new development breaking with what came before, replacing it entirely, rendering the old ways obsolete. And sometimes that is true. But more often, The story is one of continuity, of ideas persisting across different materials and different eras, of the past living quietly inside the present, invisible but still present. The filing cabinet is a particularly clear example of this. Its physical form has largely disappeared from modern offices, or retreated to corners, to basement storage rooms, to the margins of a world that has moved its information into digital form. But its logic is everywhere, in every folder on every desktop, in every database organized around the retrieval of named records, in every system that allows information to be put away and found again. The filing cabinet shaped the way we think about information, and the way we think about information shapes everything else: how organizations function, how decisions are made, how knowledge is preserved and passed on. In shaping information management, the filing cabinet shaped the modern world, quietly, without fanfare, one drawer at a time. Let that thought settle softly. The long, patient influence of a simple object, the way ideas outlast the materials that first expressed them. And perhaps that is the most fitting note on which to draw this part of the story toward its close. Because there is something in the filing cabinet's legacy that resonates beyond offices and organizations, beyond the history of technology or the development of modern business. It is the idea that things are worth keeping, that information has value, that what happened, what was decided, what was written, what was recorded, deserves to be preserved and to be findable. The filing cabinet was built on this conviction, and it embedded that conviction into the infrastructure of modern life. We live in a world shaped, in countless quiet ways, by the belief that records matter, that the past is worth holding on to, that memory, institutional, organizational, collective, is something to be tended and maintained, not allowed to slip away. The filing cabinet did not invent this belief, but it gave it a practical form. It turned an abstract conviction into a system that worked, and systems that work change the world. So here we are, at the end of our journey through the history of the filing cabinet, from clay tablets and papyrus scrolls, all the way to the invisible folder on a digital desktop, from spindle files and flat drawers, through vertical filing and oak cabinets and steel standardization, through the transformation of offices, the opening of new paths for working people, the birth of mass commerce and organized government, through blast-resistant vaults and safety locks and the quiet elegance of a drawer that glides. It has been, in its unhurried way, quite a story. The story of an ordinary object that turned out to be anything but ordinary. A quiet machine that helped build the modern world and then, having done so, faded from view, leaving its logic behind, embedded so deeply in the way we think that we no longer notice it is there. Let your breathing slow now. Let your body feel heavy and warm. The story is complete, and you can let it settle wherever it wants to settle, into whatever quiet corner of your thoughts feels right. The filing cabinet stands in the corner of the office, drawers closed, contents at rest, everything in its place, everything where it belongs, everything waiting patiently for whenever it might be needed. And so can you. Everything is in order. There is nothing left to find or to sort or to retrieve. Just the slow, comfortable weight of a mind that has been somewhere interesting and is now, gently and without any hurry, finding its way to rest. Good night.